All right, let's talk about a really strange business mystery. For decades, right, we've had all this research, all these proven strategies that are supposed to make companies more productive. But here's the crazy part. A huge number of businesses they just ignore them. So why is that? That's the big puzzle we're going to try and crack in this explainer. So to get started, let's look at a number, a really puzzling number that has had researchers just scratching their heads for years. Yep, you're seeing that right. In a huge study of Danish firms, more than half of them, over 50%, used zero of the well-established practices known to boost performance. I mean, just think about that. After all the business books, all the seminars, all the gurus, the message just isn't getting through. Now, this isn't just some little quirk. Researchers literally call this an empirical anomaly. It's so weird, it kind of breaks their models. It just begs the question, why on earth would so many companies willingly choose to be less successful than they could be? Okay, so these good ideas we're talking about, they have a fancy name, high performance work practices, or let's just call them HPWPs. They're basically a toolkit designed to unlock the potential of a company's most important asset, its people. And these practices aren't just random. They basically fall into three main buckets that are meant to work together. First, you enhance skills with better training. Then you boost motivation with things like performance pay. And finally, you create opportunities for people to actually use those skills and motivation through things like teamwork. Seems pretty straightforward, right? So what's the problem? Well, the first big clue to solving this puzzle isn't really about the practices themselves. No, it's about the companies that use them, or more specifically, how those companies are actually built from the ground up. You can think of a company's structure like its internal blueprint. It dictates who talks to whom, who makes decisions, how work flows. And to really get why some adopt these HPWPs and others just don't, we've got to look at four of the most common company blueprints out there. So the most traditional ones are what we call functional, where you group all the experts together. All the sales folks in one department, all the engineers in another. And then you have the divisional structure, which is more like creating a bunch of mini companies under one big umbrella, each one focused on a specific product or maybe a geographic region. And then things can get a little more complex. You've got the matrix structure, which is a hybrid. An employee might report to their engineering boss and to a project manager at the same time. And then there's the really modern one, the network model. This is where a small central company coordinates with a whole web of external partners that handle everything else. Okay, here's where it gets really, really interesting. Because these different blueprints, they send completely different messages to the people who have to work inside them. See, at their core, all of these company designs fall somewhere on a spectrum. On one end, you have the control philosophy. It's all about hierarchy, supervision, and making sure people follow the rules. The message is basically, do what you're told. But on the other end, you have the commitment philosophy. This one is all about empowering people to make their own decisions. The message here is completely different. It's use your best judgment. And this right here brings us to the main theory that finally cracks our productivity puzzle wide open. It turns out it's not about good ideas versus bad ideas. It's a problem of misalignment. Think back to those HPWPs, things like teamwork, extra training, performance pay. What are they all about? They're about empowering employees, right? They are, at their very heart, commitment-based tools. They only work if you trust people to use their new skills and opportunities wisely. So here it is, the million-dollar question. What do you think happens when you try to plant these beautiful commitment-based seeds in soil that was designed from day one for control? It's a disaster. It just fails. You see, employees get totally mixed signals. Management says, we trust you. Form a team and innovate. But the rigid, top-down structure is screaming, just follow the procedure and wait for 3 levels of approval. This massive conflict just tanks the whole initiative, and you end up with confusion and, you guessed it, really poor results. Okay, so that's the theory, and it sounds pretty convincing. But let's see if it actually holds up in the real world. Let's look at the data from that massive study of firms. And wow, this chart just illustrates the theory perfectly. When we look at things like teamwork and employee involvement, you see this beautiful, clear pattern. The super controlling functional firms, they barely use them. The highly committed network firms, they use them the most. It's a textbook match. And we see the exact same thing when we look at training. It's so clear. The more a company's structure is built on employee autonomy and collaboration, the more it invests in making those employees smarter and more capable. Makes perfect sense. Now, based on this pattern, you'd probably guess that those super committed network firms would also be way ahead on performance pay, right? I mean, it's a motivation enhancer. But this is where the data gives us a fascinating little twist. Turns out, it's actually the divisional and matrix firms that go all in on performance pay. So why is that? Well, the most likely reason is just simple measurement. In those structures, it's a lot easier to measure the performance of a specific division or a particular project team, which makes it way simpler to tie bonuses directly to results. So, what's the big lesson here? What's the major takeaway from all this for you and for the place you work every single day? The reason so many amazing, proven ideas fail to catch on at work isn't because managers don't know about them. It's because of this powerful force called structural inertia. The fundamental blueprint of the company itself actually fights back against any change that doesn't fit its core philosophy of control or commitment. A company's structure really is like its DNA. It's powerful, it dictates how everything works in ways we might not even notice, and it is incredibly hard to change. And as the researchers put it here, any new idea that clashes with that DNA, well, it's probably going to get rejected by the system. And that really leaves us with a final question to think about for your own workplace. What is its underlying blueprint? Is it built for top-down control, or is it designed for bottom-up commitment? And maybe the most important question of all is that structure a relic of the past, or is it actually ready for the future of work?